Most people crossing the Pea River today never give it a second thought. It's another bridge, another Alabama back road, another quiet stretch of water winding through the wiregrass. But beneath these calm waters lies one of the most remarkable places in Alabama history. Here, one war ended. Then, nearly 30 years later, another one did too. This is the story of Hobdy's Bridge. In 19th century Southeast Alabama, the Pea River was a vital crossing. Whoever controlled Hobdy's Bridge controlled movement for merchants, mail, civilians, and armies alike. Following treaties that stripped the Creek Nation of millions of acres, conflict escalated into the Second Creek War. Alabama militia and federal troops sought to remove the remaining Creek families, while many fought simply to survive. The winter of 1837 was cold, not simply because of the weather, but because an entire people knew their homeland was slipping away. For generations, Creek families had lived across what is now Alabama and Georgia. Their towns stretched along rivers. Their farms covered rich land. Their lives were woven into the forest long before Alabama was ever a state. Now they were running, not as an army seeking conquest, but as fathers carrying children, mothers gathering what little food remained, grandparents struggling to keep pace. Many hoped to reach Florida, where they believed they could find safety among the Seminoles. Standing in their way was the Pea River, and one of the few reliable crossings, Hobdy's Bridge. For the Alabama militia, the bridge was more than a crossing. It was a trap. If they could seize the bridge, they could cut off hundreds of Creek refugees before they reached the Florida border. As Creek families approached the river, warriors took positions to protect them. These were not professional soldiers. Many carried hunting rifles. Others fought with muskets that had already seen years of use. Some carried only knives and tomahawks. Their mission wasn't to win a battle, it was to buy time. Then the shooting began. The sound of muskets echoed through the pine woods. Smoke rolled across the riverbanks until friend and enemy could barely see one another. Bullets splintered trees. Horses panicked. Commands disappeared beneath the roar of gunfire. The fighting surged toward the bridge itself. Every minute the warriors held their ground meant another family could cross the river. Another child might escape. Another life might be spared. Some Creek fighters were killed. Others were captured. Many families escaped southward. Weeks later, the fighting continued nearby at the Battle of Pea River. Together, these battles effectively ended organized Creek resistance in Alabama. For the soldiers, it was a military victory. For the Creek people, it marked the end of life in the homeland their ancestors had known. Today, the river gives no hint of what happened here. The water carries no memory. The bridge has changed. The forests have grown back. Only history remembers that this quiet bend in the Pea River became the final gateway between a homeland lost and an uncertain future. Nearly 30 years later, the Civil War reached its end. Although Confederate armies were surrendering, isolated violence still erupted across the South. 28 years had passed since Creek warriors made their stand at Hobdy's Bridge. The forests had grown back. New farms lined the roads. Children who had survived the fighting of 1837 were now raising families of their own. The bridge had returned to what it had always been, a crossing, a place for wagons, livestock, travelers, and the U.S. mail. Then came the Civil War. For 4 long years, America tore itself apart. By the spring of 1865, that terrible struggle finally appeared to be over. On April 9th, Robert E. Lee surrendered the Army of Northern Virginia at Appomattox Courthouse. Within weeks, other Confederate armies followed. Across much of the South, soldiers stacked their rifles, folded their battle flags, and began the long walk home. But surrender on paper did not instantly bring peace. News traveled slowly. Telegraph lines didn't reach every crossroad. Many isolated units had yet to receive official orders. Others refused to believe the war was truly over. On May 19, 1865, Hobdy's Bridge once again found itself at the center of violence. small detachment of Union soldiers was escorting the United States mail through the region. It was routine duty. No major battle was expected. No famous generals rode with them. The greatest war in American history was supposed to be finished. As the escort approached the crossing, armed Confederates concealed nearby opened fire. The stillness of the Pea River shattered beneath the crack of rifles. The exchange lasted only minutes. When the smoke cleared, one Union soldier lay dead, Corporal John W. Skinner. His death has earned Hobdy's Bridge a unique place in Civil War history. Many historians believe Skinner was the last Union soldier killed in combat east of the Mississippi River. Weeks after the nation believed the Civil War had ended, a quiet bridge over the Pea River claimed one more life. And once again, Hobdy's Bridge had become a place where a war refused to let go. History often remembers the great victories, the dramatic surrenders, the famous speeches, but wars rarely end with a single signature. Sometimes they linger in forgotten places, on lonely roads, at quiet river crossings like Hobdy's Bridge. Unlike Gettysburg, Shiloh, or Horseshoe Bend, Hobdy's Bridge remains largely unknown despite its role in two separate American wars. What makes Hobdy's Bridge remarkable isn't just what happened here. It's that it happened twice. Few places in Alabama can claim to have stood at the closing chapters of two separate American wars. Today, there are no crowds gathered along the riverbanks, no cannon stand overlooking the water. The sounds of gunfire have long since been replaced by the wind through the pines and the steady flow of the Pea River. Yet history has a way of lingering in places like this. It reminds us that some of America's most important stories didn't unfold on famous battlefields. They happened here, at quiet crossings, far from the headlines, where the course of history changed just the same. Thank you for watching this episode of American Shadows. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving it a like, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with someone who loves history as much as you do. Every subscription, every comment, and every share helps preserve forgotten stories that deserve to be remembered. And if you enjoy historical storytelling beyond these videos, be sure to check out my novels. My Fractured Horizons trilogy blends history, mystery, and Southern suspense into stories inspired by the people and places of the American South. You'll find links to my books, my website, and social media in the comments below. Until next time, I'm Pelham Pugh. Thanks for watching, and remember, history is closer than you think.